caring leadership community is where leaders with heart, just like you, gather together to learn how they can spark real change by engaging and inspiring those that they lead. When you join our community, you'll get access to other leaders in development who all share that same goal of connecting and collaborating in order to become caring and compassionate leaders who put people first and drive real business results. Our community is unique because you have professional coaches and leaders all at your fingertips. And because it's a safe space, you can bring your whole self and get better every day. If you are ready to join us in the Caring Leadership community, simply visit caringleadership.co today. When you arrive, simply click community and let's learn and grow together.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Heather with the Leadership Heart podcast. And today I'm super excited to have one of the people that is nearest and dearest to my heart, Mareo McCracken, on the phone on the podcast. And we're going to be doing some reflecting. I don't know if you remember it. I should have remembered to remember the exact episode, but we'll make sure that's in the show notes, though. He was already in a previous podcast with me. He's in my book, The Art of Caring Leadership. And just like I did with Rich Gasson a few weeks ago, I wanted to bring him on to kind of talk about that journey, because he's just like Rich in the fact that they're both lifelong learners, like reading books. But Mario's even more prolific when it comes to reading. Oh my gosh, like, I don't know, 100 books a year. It's crazy amount of books. And so wanted to talk to him more about this like growth and learning journey and what that looked like, specifically because it is National, I want to say it's like book month or something like that. I can't remember but it's like Book Awareness Month. And so we're doing our community call, Caring Leadership community call on books and people bringing in books, the ones that have impacted them the most. So we'll be talking about that there. We're going to be doing an interview today with one of my team members talking about books and how they've impacted me. So it's a perfect time to be talking to you, Mareo. Welcome.
Thank you, Heather. It's an honor to be here. It's really exciting, actually. So thank you for taking the time to do this.
So let's talk a little about that journey, because now it's been, at least 2-3 years, I think, since we had that first conversation on this Leadership with Heart podcast. I can't remember when it was, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, like, how many books have you read in the last 3 years?
So I've been pretty consistent at about 100 a year, but that's only if you count Audible, right? So about half the books I read are on Audible, and they happen when I'm exercising in the morning. So that's about half the books. So physical books, probably only about 50 a year. One a week.
That's a lot of muscle building there, Mareo. You know how I feel about muscle building.
No, it's a way that, I'm an auditory learner anyway, though. So I actually learn better by listening than I do by either writing or by reading myself. So I actually, when I want to learn something, I'll turn on a podcast and I'll definitely shut my eyes, or even on ESPN, if I want to remember what they're talking about for sports stats for some reason. When I was a teenager, I used to just put it on. I used to just turn away from the TV just so I could listen to what they were saying. And then I had the stats memorized so I could then go do whatever I needed to do. But I'm an auditory learner for sure.
Oh my gosh, I have a son like that. And I tell his teachers, I'm like, is there a way for him to like either watch a video or listen to some kind of podcast or listen to something for him to learn? And I've known this about him since he was a kid. I remember one day, literally, he was like, he couldn't have been more than 3. He wasn't more than 3. And we were sitting watching television and somebody busted a joke, and it took me a minute. So like, I didn't respond, and he was just busting up. And I'm like, what? Oh, and then I started laughing, and I'm like, what the heck? And so I caught up, and that's kind of how my life has been with him, catching up all the time, because he catches on by listening. And so he prefers to be listening. So it's kind of cool to hear that about you, one of my favorite people on this planet. So that's cool. Well, so when you think about books, and again, this impact, the impact that books have on us, and I think about before law school, I used to read a lot of mystery books. Mystery books still are the thing that I love doing that, but I don't get to read a lot of them until I go on vacation or something. And so then I went to law school, and they kind of like I had so much reading of like the boring stuff that I got sick. I didn't want to do any reading. So I kind of stepped away from it. And then, having people like you around, my husband who listens to a zillion, probably about 100 audiobooks a year, I was like, I got to start doing that. And I got these the earbuds so I could listen to them when I'm walking around and doing dishes. I'm so busy. And so, but it's interesting because, all these years where you've been just like reading other people's books, promoting other people's books. And I'm like, when are you going to do your own darn book? I mean, come on already, 500 books and you reviewed them all. And so now we are here. with really care for them. I love this so much. Oh my gosh. So I wanted to let's talk about this. This is your first book. Let's talk about, why behind the book and why this specific one, given all the books you've read, all the time you've waited, why this one, and just a little bit about it.
Okay. Yeah, no, books are super powerful, right? We connected because of your first book, actually. That's how I found you. And that's how we connected on LinkedIn. And that's like what started it, your first book. And so, yeah, I think books can change people's lives for sure. I believe in reading. I believe in books. And I don't know if I initially planned on writing a book. That wasn't really my goal, but I loved sharing what I was learning. And so I published top 10 lists of books that I've read, and I'd always be taking notes. And yeah, like when I was in college, I stopped reading for fun and enjoyment because you were forced to read so much, right? And so, but then when I started my professional career, to really understand what I was doing and become a master of my craft, I started reading again. And that's when I got into, wow, I really love the idea of reading something that you choose to read for enjoyment purposes and for educational purposes. And so I started taking notes on sales books. And so I wanted a book. When I started deciding to put this book together, it wasn't like a plan, hey, I want to be an author and I want to write a book. People kept asking me, hey, I'm new in sales, or I've been in sales for 15 years. What's the one book I should read? And it was always different for everybody's situation. So I wanted to kind of fix that and say, hey, if there's only one book you could read, then this should be that book as the foundational piece. And so that's kind of how this book came about. Was I couldn't recommend just one book. And so I wanted to put I believe in collective wisdom. And so I wanted to put all the stuff I've learned over the last 15, 16 years in sales, take all my notes and compile, I guess, the most 199 most important ideas and hopefully share that with people.
Wow. Yeah. And they are great. It's awesome to kind of, what I love about it is that you're able to like pick it up, read a couple pages at a time and get some really good nuggets from some amazing people. So that's what I love about it the most. And so really it was a compilation, but why this book, really care for them and this whole focus, why this book?
So I think that's what's missing in sales, actually. The number one thing that's missing, no matter what level you are, if you're a VP or just starting out your sales career fresh out of school, it's that we're so focused on ourselves that we forget to care about the people we're trying to serve and help. And so while the title, the long version of it it's kind of cynical in some ways, but the point is, in the sales profession and in leadership, let's say you're an accountant or you're a project manager, whatever you have to do, if you have to persuade someone for some reason, that's a sales type role, no matter if you're officially in sales or not, the people don't care about you at first. And so your first job is to care about them enough to find a way to help them. And so if you care about them enough, eventually they'll care about you. But at first, they don't care about you. They care about what they're trying to accomplish. And so when you're trying to influence and persuade and help, if you care enough, you'll find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And the caring concept resonates with me. And you and I are aligned in so many ways anyway. Oh, yeah. So it was like when you did that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like putting the caring concept in, in the sales part. I was just doing, I'm working on a new speaker reel. You probably don't know this, but I'm working on a new speaker reel. Cool. And one of the stories is kind of like a sales customer experience story that for me, the whole focus is on listening. So it's the culture of listening inside of organizations. And that also means with sales and customer experience and customer service, how much are you listening to them? And so I know over the years, having been in traditional sales roles, in large account management roles, in customer experience roles before moving into kind of more of this employee space, I know that it was my ability to listen to them, to pay attention to what their needs, to watch the stuff they're saying and the stuff they're not saying, and feel off the energy so that I could make sure I was meeting their needs that helped me get where I needed to be as a salesperson and or as just like helping a company keep large clients,
You're spot on 100%. If you care about the other person, you have to listen to them. There's no other option. And it's proven in your actions. Caring is proven in your actions, and there's lots of ways to do it. But yeah, definitely listening is one of the main foundational points for sure.
I was going to say, in there, because it's been a little while since I read through this. Do you define what you think when you're talking about care, kind of like I do in obviously the Art of Caring Leadership, but do you kind of define it in your way of like what care represents, or really with all of the things that are in here? It's just all of the stories and all of the scenarios and the things that you put in here are really the definition. Is that how you've had it? Or I'd love to hear more about that.
It's not officially defined. No, it's more everything you do has an intention behind it, and everything you do can be felt by the other person. So they'll be able to tell if you care or not. And so, yeah, care is proven in your actions, but it's a feeling that comes first that builds off that.
So you look, I want you to go, I don't know, I think Ashley was putting out something today, but I literally had the thing that you just said about feelings. I had it in a talk I was doing. And so she just put it out today. I didn't know she was going to put it out. I didn't know she was putting that out. And I looked, that's my team member. And I looked and I said, and it was that whole thing about feelings, about like, you know what, this might sound squishy, but it's true. It is feeling. It's feeling. And the feeling is what makes them want to buy. It's that whole, it's like do they know, if they know I care for them, they're going to do more. They're going to like buy more. They're going to refer more. They're going to, all of those things. So is it a shoe-in? Are they for sure going to buy from you? Not necessarily, but right. It increases your success if they know that you care more.
Exactly. Yeah. And because emotions are really important and emotions are transferable. And if you can give people the right emotion, they're going to trust you faster. Wrong emotions make people trust you slower and less. And so if you can help people trust you, then they'll be more willing to listen to your message. And if your message then after you build that trust is logical, then you're good to go.
Let's talk about the foundation of this, because, I have read reviews from people that have had sales books in the past that were like, oh, this seemed manipulative, or this didn't seem whatever. Oh, yeah. And let's talk about the foundation of this, right? Like, this having people trust you, having people, that you care for them. Is this something that you think people can just like make up? Like, or do you have to like work at being the salesperson that actually really does care for the people instead of just making the quota? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Lots of sales and sales training and sales books are manipulative. That's half of the problem in the industry, is that salespeople are taught to do things the wrong way because they're focused on the quota and not the person. And that's hard, because when your job is aligned to a certain factor so you can feed your family, you're going to do what it takes to accomplish the job the way you're taught. Whether that's good or bad, you might put your morals aside. And that happens in lots of different industries. That happens a lot. So in sales, though, the real difference is, if you want to show you care, you first have to care about what they care about. And you mentioned that earlier in the conversation, is if you care about what they care about, everything else will kind of take care of itself. So that means you have to put your wants and needs, while you still have to think about them and accomplish them. That's not saying you forget your wants and needs. It's just you put them to the side while you get to understand the other person's wants and needs. And once you can understand what their wants and needs are, then you can find a way to give it to them that aligns with your wants and needs, because both people are equal. And so you put your needs as equal to their needs, not one person ahead of the other, but your needs equal to their needs, and you find a way to accomplish it together. And that's kind of how you show you care. And the foundational part of it that's not manipulative is you can tell when someone is trying to manipulate you by how they ask you questions. If the questions are close-ended and they kind of force a yes response, or they force you down a path where, yeah, obviously I want to increase my business. So you're asking manipulative questions that, of course, the answer is yes, but that doesn't mean I trust you yet. That just means the answer is yes. But lots of times salespeople are trained the wrong way.
And how do you know that they are, like, you've gained their trust? How do you know they trust you?
They start telling you stuff. That's kind of how you feel it. Like, if you can get the other person to tell you stories about their life, their situation, and then the stories are real and impactful and meaningful to them, then you can get all the information you need, and they trust you, because you're not going to tell someone a story that you don't trust if it's important to you. You're going to give short answers, yes or no questions. So the best way to get people to trust you is to tell them stories. And like you said, listen to them. That's the foundational part of it. If you can find a way to get them to tell stories, that's the first step.
It's interesting. I think about my time early on in sales when I worked at Mary Kay Cosmetics. I was in direct sales for over 4 years and worked my way through, having a team and cars and stuff like that. You probably didn't know that about me, but I don't even know if you knew. I don't even know if I put that.
No, we talked a little bit about it. You used to be in sales. That was awesome.
Yeah, and this Mary Kay thing. So what I noticed, though, just kind of going back to this, or kind of putting the dot on the I on this point, is I actually left that position because I also am trained as a lawyer, and I felt like between like the sales prowess, the relationship building, the rapport building, and the legal side, I had a very strong ability to persuade. And what happened is I started to feel myself being incongruent with who I said I was and like what I valued. And so I felt myself being more manipulative to be able to bring people on my team, for them to order certain things so that I could achieve certain sales goals. I'm admitting that right here on my podcast. And I was there, and I made a decision after having the awareness over time and not liking what I looked at when I looked at myself in the mirror, that I needed to exit that role so that I would no longer in my mind feel like I was manipulating people with my ability to persuade. So now that I had that's been like 25 years ago. Now that I've had that experience, like over the years, when I ever felt myself going there, because I could remember like that was a pain, that was not who I was. I didn't want to be that way. I would back myself up and say, okay, no, like relate to the person, like you said, for what it was they needed, and don't just try to like give them this thing. And I think it's easy for salespeople to kind of fall into that trap, right? When there's incentives that are big, that are exciting, if you're competitive, how do you recommend how do you think you get around that?
Yeah, it's super hard, especially when you feel the only way to do your job is to be manipulative or to be pushy or to sell something that might not be best for the person you're selling to, especially when it comes to transactional sales. In complex B2B sales, it's a little easier to align your goals with their goals because the deals are so much longer, so much bigger, so much more complex. But in individual person to person, it's a lot harder. And so I faced a very similar situation early in my career where after a while, I didn't believe what we were doing was helping anymore. The market changed, the industry kind of changed, and we didn't change as a company, and I was still selling the same product. So I used to believe in the product, but then I stopped. And that's when I knew I had to change jobs. And the good thing is sales is a transferable skill. So if you really feel misaligned, there's ways to go out there and find another sales job, because you can sell. If once you learn how to help people make good decisions, you can do that anywhere. And so sales is definitely a transferable skill. And so the hardest part is then you might have to jump ship if it requires that if you don't believe in what you're doing, you're going to have to jump ship.
Well, and so no, in this case, I still believed in the product, but I wasn't believing in myself being really me. I left, a part of who I was left me, probably because it was the day-to-day. I was kind of doing the same thing. Yeah. And so it wasn't the product itself or even like the company. It was amazing. It was just like, but I could see like, you are like going too far with this sales process. And I've done large account management with $2-3 million deals too. And again, if I'd peek in, because that would be maybe like 10 years down the road, right? Yeah. If I peek into like, are you doing that thing you did before? And I would just back myself out and make sure I was trying to meet them where they were at and removing like all of my needs from the picture. Because that's what happens with salespeople. I feel like a lot of times it can easily happen where we put ourselves in front of them. We put our needs to get the quota, our needs to get the incentive in front of them. And that's where the care kind of drops off. And so I felt like in my position, it was having the self-awareness and then realizing how much, like having the emotional intelligence, the social awareness to say, what is the impact to the other person by manipulating them to do something that might not be in their best interest, even though the product, the company are great.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's a great point. Yeah. Well, that's really, you have to be really, really careful about that kind of stuff for sure. That's a good story.
Let's give the listeners like some context for you. So, what are you doing? Like, what's your role right now? Are you in sales?
Yes, I am. So I work at a very small software company. We're getting close to 50 people on our team. I'm in charge of sales, marketing, and customer support. So our team is pretty small. We have 15 people that cover all of that part for our company. The rest of the people are either project managers or developers, coders. So about half the employees are engineers. And I'm in charge of the customer facing side of things.
Okay.
And it's a software that helps large medical device companies manage their inventory better.
And have you been doing like this type of work or sales work for like a really long time? Has it been the majority of your career, or was it a transition for you?
I've been in some type of sales role my entire career. Wow. I've added on the customer support and service over the last 6 years, but for the last 16 years, I've been in sales.
Wow. Well, that's good. That's good for anybody who's like listening and going, oh, should I like go buy this if I'm in a sales role, or I would like to get it for my sales team, right? When we think about this lovely new book, Really Care More. And there's a whole bunch of there are like subtitles there, which I love it. It actually is, no one really cares about you. They only care about what you do for them, how everyone can use the power of caring to earn trust, grow sales, and increase volume, no matter what you sell or who you sell it to, which I think is amazing, because as we think about reading through this, and as I was reading through all the different excerpts, I was thinking, I remember some years ago when I was in sales and someone would say, oh, I don't like sales. I'm not in sales. And I'd be like, yeah, you are. Like everybody is in sales because if you're in HR, you're selling a concept to the senior leadership team. Yeah. If you're someone here, you're a frontline team member, you're selling it to either a customer and or a coworker. So you need someone, if you need someone to help you get somewhere else, you're selling something. And people don't really understand that. So this book can be, anybody can read it, not just salespeople. An HR person can read it and get something out of it. Because again, there's just need to show care and then be able to sell a concept or a thing or an idea to somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. What I really tried to do is write it in a way that would be easy to understand and easy to remember, but not boring like most sales books. So I've read over 300 sales books in the last, let's say 15 years, and most are very boring. And they're like, it's like reading college textbooks. And that's why probably 90% of all sales reps I've ever met don't read sales books. So first, I wanted to write a book that people would actually read, and then it was easy to remember. But the best reviews I've gotten are from people that are saying, oh, I'm not in sales, but now this book actually can help. It helps me understand what I need to do in an easier way. And so I tried to make it easy to understand and almost like an unbook where it's not a book to be sat down and read cover to cover. It's you open it up, get some skills, go the next day, get some motivation, get some inspiration, and also have some good skills that you can apply to the next hour of your day.
I love that. And I love the fact that you provide, there's this exposure to like all different types of minds inside the books. That's the cool thing too, is when you have that exposure there, then they can go, oh, like it's not just Mario's voice, but it's these other people's voices who also have all these other years experience, just like he does, but in different areas. And then I can see myself through with the little excerpts or the examples that you put in there. So that was kind of a brilliant thing to do. Just you obviously love all of the stuff you do out in the world. And I appreciate all the support you give. I want to make sure I gave you the support. And I want people who are listening, who've already either heard you or following you because they heard you the first time, to know that you have this new cool book out. And when we think about leadership at heart, caring leadership, this concept of having that constant learner and just like always scaling yourself up and just getting better, and how it translate into how you treat people. And you and I are both 100% aligned on it's all about action. It's about feelings. It's about how you treat people. And if you care for them and they know that, they will go over and above for whatever it is you're trying to get done. They will just go over and above for you. So I appreciate you so much. Again, congratulations on this, really big milestone. So well deserved, and excited to see where this goes and how many lives it can touch too.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.
So for those who are listening, if you found just this conversation helpful and you want to be able to share it, do that. Please share it far and wide. And don't forget to write that 5-star review on Amazon, because that is how other people get this kind of content and they learn about these new things. Don't forget to go out and pick up Mareo's book. Look at this. It's beautiful. And it's very handy to be able to pick up. And when you need that little extra boost of inspiration to figure out how it is you can express more care in the process of being more persuasive, selling, whatever it is, his book is perfect for that. So go out and get one today. All right. Thank you, Mareo.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for listening to the Leadership at Heart podcast. Be well.